Hey everyone, welcome back to Revelation Now. We took a little holiday break there, but it's good to get back. We're going to be talking about the book of Revelation along with themes of the apocalypse mixed with questions we have about the paranormal and the supernatural that's involved in the last days. But the last time we talked, we've got Jason here and Tyler. And
hello.
They're hanging.
Yes.
And we were just a subject I think that was close to our hearts is music, the concert, the festivals, the jams. Where does that come from? And it's been a big part of our lives in one way or another. Careers as well. But there's something about it that in reading through Revelation, I've been actually reading it aloud a couple of times.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time, but aloud. So I can hear myself reading it. And what I've realized is it's not as trippy as I first thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I realized, Wait a second here. These are elements I understand. They're just more intense, perhaps, yeah. And then reading through and got in the chapter 4 and 5, one of the first things it says that the church is going to experience is being before the very throne of God.
Yeah.
And it just, the focus of it,
Goosebumps.
as it began to come out, because he's focused right in on God, then it begins to slowly, he pulls back in his view and his descriptions. And the descriptions are great too, more than I thought, how it is.
Cosmic view.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
How he's trying to explain it, yeah. But and also it hit me is like, this is concert-ish. Festival jam, the thunder, the bass, the singing, the lights.
Yeah.
It's getting into the lights of it. And the power of it coming from a particular upward, like a stage, but it's a mountain, really. Talk about a stage. And if your stage is a literal mountain.
And you're hearing something.
Yeah.
And I love that you just said, too, you're reading it aloud, which I've been trying to do, too.
Yeah.
Right there in the beginning, right here, the revelation of Jesus Christ, chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of the prophecy and keep the things which are written in it, for the time is near. To be read aloud.
Yeah,
Hear it.
That's what it is in the Greek.
So the
actually
churches,
says aloud.
people.
There's a lot to be said for that. Reading.
Yeah, it's
Reading
amazing.
it aloud.
You know,
Not everybody could read. I mean, they had to be read to.
They had to be visualizing it.
Visualize.
It has
Can
to
you
be part of
imagine?
it. That's God's total
acting it
movie
out?
scene. Yeah.
And that was kind of the idea as you get to chapter 4 and 5, that you're kind of immersed into it. This cosmic
you're
scenery.
in. Yeah.
You are in it. And you may not be reading it, you may be hearing it. And you can hear it, read it aloud to yourself, read it to your kids.
But for whatever the reasons, I'm not as, what is this? I can't.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah.
Even when it gets into earthquakes, we get that. It gets into the pandemics, we get that. And of course, it's things.
Wars.
It's and it's really just consequences of things being off.
I think it's the imagery, the horns and the eyes
and the blood and the smoke and the stars and
And it's very symbolic and intentional and plays its role.
Mm-hmm.
But you get
those are the things.
Sidetracked.
But
the mark of the beast, like Sister Wilson was talking Sunday. Even that, I began because of the pandemic and all of that. You couldn't go anywhere and go to certain places unless you showed that you've gotten the shot.
Yeah,
the COVID shot.
Vax pass.
I mean, we just saw that. You have to have a certain thing. And I'm not saying, please, everyone out there, hear me.
Yeah, right. You're just talking about the concept.
The COVID shot
isn't foreign.
Was the market. There's Christians saying that, though. That was crazy. Because the reason they were saying it, because it got intense.
Right.
that we were now living all of a sudden, like overnight, we're living in a situation where if unless you have this in your body, some sort of thing, it's going to limit what you can do and your acts. Because we went to New York for the Comic-Con deal, and you had to show what was up. But my point is we can relate to it, and it was just so wonderful to think about where does what we do on earth come from then? Obviously, even if we're unconscious of it, we're acting out what started in a heavenly realm.
Yeah. Oh, man. And that goes all the way back, like, to Mount Sinai. Like, that's a whole trip, too. Like, Moses getting a view of what the temple looks like in the heavenlies, and then a copy of that on earth.
Yeah, he said, write it down. I don't think
And then
people
you
realize
see
how much, the music that's at the temple, even during that time, even the second temple period, they had players. I mean, the strings.
Yeah, like
section,
where, like you say, where does that come from? Well, it sounds like we know where it comes from.
It's like out of the church came the blues and different things like that with the music.
I think there's something too with the imagery, not just Revelation, but through all the Scripture. I know it can be like people we say it constantly. Don't get sidetracked, don't get into all that stuff, and I understand that, like wanting it to be relatable, but part of it, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of our scripture. They're so rich. It's mysterious. It's wondrous. Like when my kids pick up like a picture Bible, like we have this action Bible, immediately Revelation. That's where all the cool stuff is.
That's what
It's
Reggie
where all
did.
it's dragons and wilds, and it's awesome. Like it's great. Like we don't have to just like throw that out.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna talk here
it's
soon.
Like beautiful.
Hey, we're gonna talk soon about the locusts that are released from the abyss.
Yes.
Then you start seeing how all of these zombies,
the cicada invasion,
these certain ideas that we think we originated it. The zombie apocalypse and these things that come and attack people in the end.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, it's already been in the Bible for a few thousand years.
I remember in 7th grade, this kid had this cool shirt. I was so jealous. It said, "I survived the cicada invasion." It had a big cicada in the front. I was like, I want that shirt.
Yeah.
Are we going to survive the invasion?
So you just saw.
I think so.
You just were saying, Tyler, you just saw Saul. My wife said I say Saul.
S-A-L?
S-A-U-L.
Saul?
Better call Saul.
She
says, you people in Ohio, she's from
kicking
Maine.
the goads.
She said, why do you say Saul?
What
I
does
say,
she
what
say?
do you say? Saul?
Saw.
Saw.
With a W.
Saw.
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 She says the correct word. Saw.
Instead of Saul.
Okay.
You got to experience a few shows here recently.
I did.
Right?
Well, because we've been talking about the concert in heaven, like the thunder and the rumbling and
then there's
the lights.
Silence though too,
and
then there's
silence.
drama.
And I think the last time we
And-
talked, I just seen The Cure in Cleveland with 19,000 people and just intense
Something
and overwhelming.
about
Something
that.
about that. But this past week, right here in Dayton, Ohio, on Thursday night at a bar in 3rd Street downtown called the Barrel House, was a fellow named Lou Barlow. And he was really big in the 90s indie world band called Sebadoh. He was in another thing, I can't remember what they were called, but they had a huge hit in the movie Kids, indie film, and it was called Natural One. I'm the one, natural one,
I
make
remember
it
that.
easy. Really big hit.
Mhm.
But he's also...
Does he just play bass?
He plays bass in Dinosaur Jr., which is another really, really popular band. But Lou grew up, his first 2 years in life were right here in Beaver Creek, where I went to school.
Wow.
And so he was back for kind of a living room vibe. And it was just him in this bar and then several acoustic guitars, just singing songs that he wrote, just this songwriter experience. And there was just something about it, just the creativity of it, just like that kind of, where does that come from? And people just sitting in chairs, like, hoping that he'll play a certain song that they really connect with and identify with. And then on Saturday, here in town at a local pavilion, was Ben Folds, who my family, we've just loved him forever. In the 90s was Ben Folds 5 and lots of big hits. And I was bummed out at first because it's a big pavilion and it was just him and a grand piano. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a scam. It's, $50 ticket.
Mm.
It was like one of the best things ever. It was just so intimate. Just this guy writing songs, sitting at a grand piano, and just so talented. Just talent in his blood and in his fingers. But I couldn't help noticing, because of that intimate environment, there was probably, 2,000 people there, I would guess. But they knew every word. And they were singing at the top of their lungs alongside of him. And it was just like this, like a heavenly chorus. And it just kind of brought me full circle.
That is very revelation-y.
It brought me full circle back
Heavenly
to what
concert.
is this?
What is it?
What is
Where
this?
does it come from?
It was powerful and it was beautiful.
It has that supernatural
and me
feel
and my
to
family were singing along to
Oh.
the songs we knew. There was just
Oh.
this pull there, and it was just beautiful. And it made me think of this. It may not have been a big, loud, full band light show, thunderous.
Sometimes that can be even more touching.
Yeah, it was so moving, and it just brought me full circle to this power that's there, this otherness of music. Very moving.
And God has allowed others to have that same gifting and power. And it can be wielded. You see, we were talking about, I just heard Taylor Swift, her concerts going around America, her big shows, has affected the economy of America. Has affected the entire economy of America in a positive way.
Domino effect, yeah.
Because of the number of people, like Cincinnati, the millions of dollars that came in.
Well, hotels,
Which,
restaurants.
the whole
yeah.
impact that had.
Dayton hosts the first four in the
Mhm.
NCAA tournament. It's a huge boon every time they do it here.
Yeah.
Hotels, restaurants.
And I think it's the power of, and this is where it gets controversial, the power of worship.
There's something there.
There is. I know people say, well, I'm not worshiping, when I go to a show. But there is, though, your heart's going out. It's being affected. There's a back and forth. You can see that in Revelation 4 and 5. And I'm not bashing any shows or anybody. But you see it where from the throne of God, where it's like the glory that's coming from him out into the millions and millions, and then they're giving back, and just like, man, you're so awesome, and thank you, and wow,
Day and night
that
they do not cease.
Yeah, and we've
holy,
just,
holy, holy.
we've
is the
been
Lord God.
allowed to participate in it. It's something that's sacred.
I think so.
I think that's the deal. It's something we're playing with fire too, though. You got to watch it, man, because you could sow. I heard Jerry Garcia talked about it. He said there were times when they channeled the wrong thing. He was so open about it. It was so cool. He's like, yeah, we had some great
Interesting.
shows, but dude, I'm telling you, there were some nights you had to watch it because the wrong spirit got in that thing and it just went in the wrong direction. But then he talked about how I forget where it was, like everybody talked about the show where everybody went on a journey together.
Sure.
Everybody went,
And they probably did.
Went to some outer space place and came back to Earth in the trippiness of it. And he was honest, said, yeah, there's powers here at work that we had to learn to
What is that?
watch.
Obviously, that was an experience.
I think there's two things. It's no different than human relationships. Like there's something with like the concerts you went to. Like
Yeah.
I don't even, that doesn't even cross my mind that you were worshiping that guy who's playing up there. Like that's a communion between people. And any relationship could get off if it becomes
That's what I'm
the
saying.
God,
We don't
the
understand
little
the
G
word
God.
worship.
like that's one thing. Worship, like that's like a different communion. But that's really what
But
people
that's what you have
really
to watch. Yeah, I'm
looking
just saying
for.
it goes. Yeah,
Well,
you really are, and I don't mean it offensive. People get
No.
mad, and I'm saying I'm not meaning it offensive, but there is a praise and worship element to these things.
sure.
Whether you want it to be that or not, I'm telling you, it is.
And I think it comes down to where your allegiance and your heart lies to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, I had the craziest experience. The band that I'm in, Brainiac, we got to go to the UK and support a band called Mogwai, and there were nights. They're very ethereal, kind of ambient. They call their music ambient with the hard bits. It's
Yeah.
like powerful building. There were moments on these Mogwai shows where I found myself starting to lift my hands to praise God during the Mogwai set.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I wasn't worshiping Mogwai.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't worshiping that band. I was literally having some sort of experience with my creator where I just wanted
Something
to praise
gets in
and
there.
worship him
Yeah.
through their music.
Yeah.
So what's that?
Well, it goes back to if we're seeing it correctly about Lucifer, somehow he got off in this whole element of worship. Like he began to say or think, come on, why can't I get the fullness of this? And the power involved and can be, it's not so gray. Well, I guess it is. I guess I'm trying to say my first experience when I ended up at a concert, I couldn't separate it from the feeling of being in a revival. That was just me. That's because of my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just being overwhelmed by it.
You're talking about what band
Kind
was
of
it?
afraid about, and it was hilarious. It was just the Kinks. I snuck
Kinks,
off
yeah.
and saw the Kinks in
He doesn't
Cincinnati.
even know how much
I know Jason and I are huge Kinks fans.
Yeah, but and I know their folk. I know the one fella. He's got some great, really cool, smart stuff.
Ray Davies?
Lyric-y. Yeah, Ray Davies.
Yeah, he's a genius.
But I just was overwhelmed by the people around me.
Right.
Not just, I'd never been anything like that. I was like 15 years old,
Listen.
14. All I knew was church my whole life, and I just looked around. And there
No.
were some drunk heads there just going nuts.
But it's funny you say that because the other day at a local record shop, I got a $7 used copy called The Live Kinks. It's like late 60s concert. And same with those era Beatles shows. It's hilarious. The recording, it's almost worthless. All you can hear are people screaming the entire time.
It just was overwhelming.
like you can't even hear the music. It's
Yeah. And again, we ask, what is that? Yeah. That has to be how people are doing in heaven too. That's what they're doing. They're doing that same thing, being completely overwhelmed by the power of God going out over the crowd of millions.
It doesn't say that in the actual text, but I get the sense that it's almost involuntary.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's
just
why I was saying tag your it.
responsive.
It just is like you're just dancing around with all your might, and then it hits somebody else.
Like you just can't
It
help it.
moves. It's like in a wave of it that's going on. And this is in Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what threw me off this year for some of the reasons. I was like, wait
Right.
a second here. Revelation starts off pretty powerfully positive.
And I get what Jason's saying too about the worship thing. It's not cut and dry, like always black and white with like, oh, I'm worshiping like on Saturday night, like I'm worshiping Ben Folds or whatever. And
I don't mean that in a negative
Right.
way. I'm just saying the elements are there.
Yeah,
I think as churchy people,
churchies
it's harder to see it almost immediately
feels that way.
feels worshipy.
the way we're
'cause
wired.
It's almost like
informed.
hard to do it right. Like, how do you do this? How do we do this how do we do it healthy? You know what I mean?
Well,
Sure.
How do you do any relationship
Well,
healthy?
I remember
without
the
it
same
becoming,
thing. I almost got
Because that's a huge bummer. Like, you can't have a communal experience with art and music, like, without it turning into, like...
Idol worship.
Yeah, like, what? That's weird. Like, that can't be right. But it does. There is some... I don't know what
yeah,
that
but
line
I'm just,
is.
I guess I would say too, was there's a power element to it, and you can use it for ill or good.
Sure, 100%.
Absolutely. You could preach your own propaganda, get it into kids' heads, and
it's beyond the person, their control, too.
yeah.
People just start worshiping them. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about Garcia, he hated it.
Yeah.
it really freaked him out the
Yeah.
way people treated him.
Yeah.
Like he was a guy.
Like he really was like
it made him want to go
supernatural-
worse into like
Just
like-
be Jerry.
I
the
was
worst.
just-
That's why he's up there like
I was just
falling
reading-
apart, and everybody's
yeah.
like, "Oh, you're so great."
I was just
Perfect.
He's just like, "That's great."
I was just reading the one actor who got real famous at 19, and he said the people, the accolades and everything. He said it really began to freak him out bad.
Yeah,
He said he got into paranoia and he's self-loathing because of it.
yeah. It's not just the artists; it's people.
Like because again, we're messing. There's power in art, and it messes with people. Even if you not intended, it messes
It's
with
not
people.
It's not really their fault.
Not the artist. I'm not talking about the artist. I'm just talking about you can be overwhelmed by a painting, and
And I
you
think
can be overwhelmed by actors. No, have you ever run into someone famous and it starts messing with you, like Dave
Oh,
Chappelle?
Big time.
I went up and stood behind this guy at the Green. It was a midnight thing. I don't know what it was. All of a sudden I realized it's Dave Chappelle, brother. It's Dave Chappelle. It's Dave Chappelle. I started
Yeah, we-
looking around like, it's Dave Chappelle.
When
I wanted to tell people around me
Yeah.
like, oh,
Can you imagine
began to
that's
affect
all
me.
the time you live in that? That's
We-
bizarre.
that was me. I'll admit.
well, that's part of being made in the image and likeness of God, and why he's had to really like the very first commandment was focus on me. Or you're going to be tempted to go off with things.
With the idols.
But that doesn't mean we can't honor art. We can honor the artist because of the gifting that God's put on
full
them. Say, hey,
circle,
man,
though, back
look at
to
the
the
gifting that
power of
God's
it.
put in them. It's awesome.
Yeah, it would be like saying nature is bad. Like, of course he made it.
No.
But
And he
no.
explicitly says, "Do not worship this."
and you
Yeah.
totally can. You
Yeah.
can totally worship
You-
nature.
you
if
can,
want.
but he's saying enjoy
that's where your
it.
allegiance is.
Be
It's the
in
same-
it. Be in it.
It's the same. See, I learned that. It took me a while, but I have learned how to do that. I've learned how to enjoy a good movie without worshiping it. I've learned how to enjoy going to U2. But it did get annoying to me. I wanted to tell everybody, could you all just be quiet for a moment and let me hear U2?
Yeah.
Everybody was singing every line. The people next to him were like, I don't want to hear her. I want to hear Bono.
Yeah.
People
You're not Bono.
It's like, oh man. But anyway, yeah, just that element is powerful.
Yeah, and you
No
get
matter what
elevated
way-
to that.
Yeah.
And there is
You
that.
can get caught up in it.
and there are cosmic powers behind things too.
Yeah.
That you could give yourself over to.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite psalms I've just fallen in love with is Psalm 138. And it starts off, says, I will give you thanks with all my heart. I will sing praises to you before the gods.
But that
love
reminds
that
me
line.
of what your experience with Mogwai, where that inspired you upward instead of them.
No, I
and
wasn't.
you appreciate them.
Oh, I
like
fell in
they're
love with them.
fantastic. But
Yeah.
it's still the
I
worship.
still-
it makes you go
yeah.
up. It makes you
No.
want to worship God.
But-
not
I
them.
used-
But that's where
to-
I am personally.
Yeah.
And so because right now, thank God for his patience, his utmost patience, my allegiance is to him and my faith is in him. So that's where it went. Yeah, totally.
But
But it could go somewhere else.
I used
yeah,
to. I haven't in a
allegiance is
while.
love or just like
Faith.
wow,
That's what
you're
faith
awesome.
is. Trust, confidence,
I don't
faith,
think like
allegiance.
the instrumentalist, keyboardist, Vangelis.
Mm.
I used to pray all the time with his music behind me.
I still do. He just died
Yeah.
last year. I think.
He did.
He died
Chariots
last
of
year.
Fire, Blade Runner, soundtracks. That guy, he had some awesome ethereal stuff.
I pray to Brian Eno all of the time.
Eno has some good stuff. So we're not picking on nothing. I think everybody hears our heart.
Sure. We're
But
just saying that there's a power behind it.
Absolutely,
And
and
there's
it
a-
should wake us up to the reality of God and being ready for the times we're living in.
To me, it makes me so excited, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and get bummed out about Christian stuff being lesser than whatever. But it gets me excited because obviously, if God's the creator of this and there's power behind it, it comes from Him, and so art is just like an expression from the creator that we then express as the created. And so I think that's why there's such a power there, because it does originate from him.
Yeah.
And so I've talked about it before, where it's like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. It starts, like back in the 80s, we dubbed everything onto cassette tapes. And you had, I don't know, a few dozen listens or something. And then you'd tape over it, put the spitball in the corner, the top left tape. Remember that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Jason might be too young for that. But you put
Yep.
the wad up a spitball, put it in the top left, and you could tape over any tape pretty much.
Yeah.
But then there was just more degradation and degradation and degradation. So when I look at Revelation 4 and 5, to me, that's the utmost.
Yeah.
That's the utmost real thing. And then you talked about Lucifer and that aspect of the fall music.
Because there were these heavenly creatures around that are declaring, speaking, singing, music. And it talks about how Lucifer there in Ezekiel and Isaiah, he literally was a musical being.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was part of his very makeup.
His role.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
he would, and what's funny to do, not funny, but really interesting, that he made instruments.
Oh, wow.
He was an instrument. Like keep thinking of like a beatbox. Some of these guys that are incredible, and girls that are incredible at the beatboxing type thing. Like he had certain things about him that he was musique. It was a part of his very thing. And so it's good.
Yeah.
It was created good, but that was already in God first. Beyond Lucifer, we're
Right.
just saying
That's what I'm saying. And it's like,
it really the reason it has what it has is because it's really eternal. It's an eternal thing you're getting caught up in.
uh-huh. And another,
If it's from God, in God, if music is in him, then it's eternal.
yeah. And as far as Satan's concerned, Pastor Katrina talked about it Sunday. You've talked about it in previous Sundays this summer in our Revelation Now series. Is throughout Revelation, you see that Satan is just the grand imitator.
Uh-huh.
He's like the parody dude.
It's very
There's the false trinity, there's the false this, there's the parody of this, the imitation of that, the crowns, all of it. It's an imitation throughout all of Revelation. And so that's just what I see, like, from that standpoint. It's just there's this thing that originated with the Creator.
Yeah.
And then what comes down from that is what we see played out in our lives.
The copies.
The copies. And that's why, and I'm not judging, I love Christian music. I collected on vinyl. The 80s stuff's the best. My favorite. I love it. I love modern worship. It's all so good and so blessed. But if we're art-wise, if we're just copying something else, then you just get that degradation of the copy of the copy of the copy.
Yeah.
And I just wish there was a little more
And you can
straight
see, like
up,
I was
like,
saying, and
I
that's
know
what Jerry
Jason could speak to
Garcia
it.
was saying too. Like we had, like he was saying, like after a while, we had a whole lot of bad nights too. Trust me. You know, that's the degradation too, because we're living in a breakdown. Can you imagine though seeing the original?
Yeah.
And we are. Because that's actually future.
Well, it's like a painting too. Imagine seeing an original.
I was trying to find it. I can't find it. There's a quote by C.S. Lewis about that all of beauty, it's not the beauty of the thing that really gets us.
Mm-hmm.
What gets us about beauty is the reminder that we're from somewhere else.
Yeah. Yep.
That it's this other thing. That's why it's striking to us, because we should really be in another world that is all that.
And N.T.
That's it.
Wright, who
Where
just
is
That's
that
why
quote?
it lights us up. Is we're what?
N.T.
What
Wright
is this?
quoting
This is
that.
Because you're from somewhere else,
Yeah.
and you're desiring. And he talks about that. You don't just desire to see beauty; you desire to be in it. It says to bathe in it, to be
Yes.
existentially a part of it.
Jumping off of Lewis and that idea, N.T. Wright has a book called Broken Signposts about that very thing.
Yeah.
Beauty's a whole like chapter in there, I think.
Yeah.
It's like totally like, what is that? That's pointing to something else.
Yeah. That's his whole point.
Beyond
is
it.
that because beauty's a tough thing to even understand.
Yeah,
like,
it could
what
be
the heck
could be
is that?
subjective.
Why-
Like that's
yeah,
beautiful
why
to
is-
me, but not
Why
to
is this
you.
moving me?
Yeah.
And he says it's moving you because it's reminding you
Well-
that you should be in another
Well, you and I,
world.
like a
But
couple
this
weeks
is
ago,
I put in C.S. Lewis heaven quotes. There's so many.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, Sigur dropped a unexpected record, and you and I, Jason, were like, "Oh my gosh!" Just like tears down our faces.
Yeah.
Other people hear that and be like, "Okay."
Yeah, because it is moving me in a longing for that connection.
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
that
Had nothing to do with them, as beautiful
No,
as they are.
But
I
they
just,
are, though. They are certain people who are gifted at conjuring. I hate to even use that word.
maybe
but I don't
that's
know what
okay to
say.
use
they
that
are
word.
conjuring that experience.
they're tapped into something.
They're
there.
humans. They're spirits. They are human beings with special talents who can do that. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
And it strikes you, and
I've,
you're like,
I've read
wow, that
interviews before with Jonesy where it's like, do you know that so many millions of Christians are moved by your music? And he's like, okay. More or less like,
Yeah.
all right.
But there's something in it, even in the ancients. They're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't really explain it. They all do it. It's not just utilitarian, live, eat, breed. There's always this extra. There's always some kind of art involved. The quote is, "We do not want merely to see beauty, though. God knows even that is bounty enough. We want something else which can hardly be put into words, to be united with the beauty we see, to pass into it, to receive it into ourselves, to bathe in it, to become part of it."
Wow.
There's something about that union, that communion, even in a good way between the humans and that artistic experience. You're also wanting that with God, that communion. And that's where it gets a little tricky sometimes, as you get it confused. And we all do, even in just relationships, with our spouses or what, it becomes the thing.
Then they
Or
can
our
turn them into
children, they
little
become
G's.
Yeah, totally, totally. But yeah, that's interesting. It's also
The one he says, this is where heaven is reality itself. All that is fully real is heavenly.
Yeah. Ugh.
For all that can be shaken will be shaken, only the unshakable remains.
That's part of what he's saying. It's like that's just reminding you of an eternal.
Is it
thing.
the
It
great
also reminds you of wonder years as a kid.
Yeah, is it the
Yes.
great divorce?
the way
Don't
it should
That's
be.
the way it does. Yeah.
That's
Is
the
it in
way
the
it-
great divorce where like the grass hurts?
Yeah.
It's so real. It's so realer than real. Yeah. You can't walk on it. It's like painful.
Mhm.
And you start, and as you get older and things, you do feel the degradation of a fallen world. You want to get back. That's part of what I'm sensing in my own life at this age. I've experienced the downside of a fallen world and the fallen self too. Man, the joy of certain things. And you can still experience that. Don't get me wrong. But that was Lewis's first thing that came back to him was joy, surprised by joy.
Yeah, even in the midst of some real
Surprised
suffering.
by joy. And I think
Some
that's
real
what art
hardships.
does. It surprises us, like Jason's saying. It goes beyond nature.
Yeah, and not just music. I mean, paintings and
Walking, hiking,
drawings and hikings and
looking at, I got the great week of that this week of the inspiration of it.
I just visited my beautiful in-laws who I adore. They're in Huntsville, Alabama. And every morning, the weather worked out perfect. It was stormy, except in the mornings. And every morning for my morning prayers, instead of in the bedroom, I decided to walk through the mountains and pray. I think I was floating. I'm pretty sure I was levitating. Just looking out, and because of the weather, the clouds were in the mountains and like in my face. I was like I was in the heavens. While I'm praying, this little handbook for prayer, scripture handbook prayer thing. I mean, it was to me an almost otherworldly experience. Just surrounded by that beauty and the trees and the mountains and the sunrise it was almost too much.
Yeah.
Right.
It was almost too much.
Yeah, that's different too. I was thinking about the experience, the concert experience. There's something about how do I explain this? A concert is one thing. You're going to see someone do something, and like music and art that exists that's not that is an actual utility of, like, if you were to just sing a worship song by yourself, worshiping by yourself, like, that's a different experience. Like, that's a totally different thing.
It's more utility, you're saying?
Yeah, in a different way, like actual, like, I when I was in Italy in Orvieto, I went to it. It wasn't a show, but it was there was a convent there, and there was a group of cloistered nuns who do services. This is just their life. This is how they live, and that's
their liturgy.
Certain days, at certain points throughout the day, they'd come together and do worship songs. But there was a thing where you could go in and look. It was really strange because there was like a cage. They're like over there, but you're like kind of seeing them doing their thing. Like, they're going to do this whether anybody's there or not. That's just part of their life. You know what I'm saying? Like, art in worship in that experience is different too than just the spectacle. Like, there's a lot about the concerts that's like that. But if you're together in something, experiencing something as just vertical only, like nobody's there to watch, like, that's a different thing. Like that, I know that could be really beautiful.
It's kind of like the one where we put the drape in front of so it was all together. Remember that, the Easter?
Oh, the scrim.
The scrim.
Mm-hmm.
The musicians were behind the scrim. They were the shadows.
So you didn't get caught off just by the stage. Yeah, you wanted everybody to go up together.
Imagery was projected onto the scrim.
Yeah.
And they were more, the worshipers were more communal facilitators kind of in the background.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's that whole thing too, like in the electronic.
We're still talking Revelation. This is amazing.
World where they have these concerts where the speakers are everywhere. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? They're throughout the whole room.
Yeah.
So it's totally just everywhere.
Yeah.
Just immersive. Like there will be like a DJ, like there's a physical booth somewhere. Yeah. But the experience is everywhere.
Right.
And that makes me think of Revelation 5 too. It's like this immersive, like it's, listen to this. This is every created thing which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth and on the sea and all things in them, I heard saying, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be the blessing and the honor and the glory and the might forever and ever. That sounds pretty immersive.
Yeah. Like, birds are going to sing whether you're there or not. They're going to be praised.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We're just got little hints and tastes and
signposts.
I think I said this last time. I was listening to Brother Moore. He was talking about the power of humility. The humble get grace, but like if there's a big mountain around when he's speaking out, like he's in certain states, and it really is a mountain. He tries to get a motorcycle so he can ride by it, because his knowledge of God over the years, he says he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and greater and greater. He says to where and this is an awesome thing, really, how awesome God is. But he says, I feel like a little pebble at the base of a mountain. Yeah. A pebble, not that we're some big rock at the base and compared to God. No, he says, and that's true. That's what you're seeing, being overwhelmed by this being who we believe really is so overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's not that we're insignificant or tiny or worthless. It's just the comparative.
How
you're actually wanting it to. I want it to be that way.
I just read somebody recently.
I don't want tiny.
Glory
do you really
God.
want a little?
I don't want Santa Claus.
Do you really want a little?
It's
guy?
like Tiny Elvis. Remember the Tiny Elvis on the SNL skit long time ago with Nicolas Cage?
Oh yes, Tiny Elvis.
Tiny Elvis there.
Nicolas Cage, what a gift he is.
Yeah, we just talked about him being in the Left Behind series.
He's been in everything.
He did that.
Yeah.
He did one.
He's literally been in everything.
He did a rapture movie.
I love it.
But yeah, okay, we'll come back to this subject as we go along. I want to talk but what reason why we're talking this is because of Revelation was more than coming back to it in our series. I said, wait a second here. There's a lot of, like Sister Olson was talking about, the mercy that you find in Revelation, the worship that you find in Revelation.
Yeah.
We've tended to just focus on the new heaven and a new earth, and that's coming. We focus on the destruction, and it's there, but it's actually something we really are wanting, crying out for.
Yeah.
Is this because we see the ick, the negative, the bad, the evil that's in our earth. I mean, it's just right, and it's affecting things to where we're not really experiencing the fullness of what we want. It's really in our hearts.
Yeah, and I maybe we should come back to a future podcast episode about this theme too. I love that you said that, and Pastor Katrina talked about it Sunday. It also has a lot to do with your lens in Revelation.
Yeah,
because a lot
true.
of people don't see the mercy and offer of repentance in Revelation. They just see the smackdown, the judgment.
The angel preach the gospel.
Yeah, they'll
in Revelation.
Like I've read a lot of commentators, they'll say that's more or less just like, well, they got to give the opportunity, but it's not amounting to much because
there's a great
and there's
harvest,
some truth there.
There's a lot of
but
salvation.
There is. I'm with Sister Wilson on Sunday. I'm seeing just even throughout all of that so much of the goodness and grace and mercy of God, and how can I not with what I've experienced
right
in my own life? And I see the exact same thing, that down to the wire, there's going to be opportunity.
Right.
Just like Peter said. Is it 2 Peter or 1 Peter?
Yeah.
It's 2 Peter, right?
Yeah. It's thief on the cross.
That's the reason.
Down to the wire.
Yeah, it's tough because the judgment part, there's no way around it because it has to be liberated. It has got to be liberated from this other kingdom that it's under. That's why we're saying we're from this other place. We should go because we're under this other. And to get liberated, it's got to get taken down.
It goes back to Jason saying,
real way.
It goes back to Jason saying, what kind of God do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want a kind of a God that's going to let all this just go on forever?
Yeah. Right.
No, with all the martyrs, we're crying out, Lord, how much longer?
And according to law, it can't.
How can you be good?
Yeah. No, you want this God, you also want this grace. And thank God he is that grace as well.
All right, verse 11. This is chapter 5. Then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne. The living creatures. I like that. God has living creatures parading around his throne. People like dinosaurs don't want to miss heaven. These crazy creatures are dancing around his throne, and the elders. He saw it. I think that's the human being parts of it, and the number of them. See, here's what the number of what. Then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them, I think it's talking about the whole thing, was 10,000 times 10,000s and thousands of thousands. With a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. There's a side here where on the other side, you seem very grateful, very grateful to be there and what lies ahead. What lies ahead. Guys, we're going to see you next time. It's good to be back. It really is, and to share these things. God bless you.